Legends. The podcast about urban legends. And meet your host, that's right, Neil Chris Huntley. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Urban Legends, the podcast which is on the internet. I am Australian trade envoy, Chris Flynn, and with me, as always, if you go down to the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. It is local craftsman, Mr.
Neil Herbert. You didn't tell me this was going to be on the internet, Chris. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Oh, really? Does it offend your craftsman ways?
Well, yeah. I just feel, that's all of these NFTs and cryptocurrencies and all this nonsense. I like a nice handcraft. I thought we were going to build this out of wood.
Build this
like a little wax cylinder and just broadcast it in a forest somewhere for anyone strolling across to listen to if they come across it.
You're going to
honest.
You're going to whistle the transcript in runes onto big rocks
in a dead language
and leave them lying around. Maybe causing your own conspiracy theories or something.
Wow, you never know.
So, what kind of crafting have you been doing this week? Have you been making maybe a nice fisherman's lure, something like that?
So obviously, there's always a little side hustle with the lures. They tend to be they tend to be quite popular,
aren't you, around here?
Yeah. But I've just been continuing that project of building an effigy in my own image that I can then worship.
You worship the image of yourself?
Himself, yeah.
Oh, that's
sort of like him.
That's very modern of you. Well done.
Well, I mean, you argue that's probably where things like the Sphinx and the pyramids go back to. So, I mean, obviously, I'd like to have something that was 4 miles high, but don't tend to get pieces of wood that large, and the lathe would be held to engineers. So.
Could you not use several different bits of wood and put them together, or is that
in like a sort of pyramid shape?
Yeah.
No, I think structurally that might be problem. Anyway, cut
it's
your
also,
to your means.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, it'd be difficult to get planning permission, or in fact, even purchasing enough land to build a 4 mile high pyramid, which somehow has an effigy of yourself.
I do live in a studio flat, as you know, Chris. So it's
bed sit.
It's quite pokey as it is, and it's
a bed sit. No,
it's quite cluttered. Yeah,
it's a bed sit.
Bed sit studio.
You share the toilet.
Yeah,
with that guy who screams all night and the drug dealer.
He's up a lot. Yeah, one of them's flushing things down, and one of them's something else. But yeah,
well. It's a rich tapestry, isn't it? Your lodgings.
Yeah.
So,
cast of characters.
Neil, this week we're going to look into something that I've not heard of, but they've certainly captured my heart and imagination very quickly. And they are the Mellon Heads.
You mentioned this earlier, and I did have to look up. It wasn't the band with Even Dando. That was the Lemon Heads. So
and it wasn't
absolutely no one else is confused about.
It wasn't the presenter Jill Dando.
No.
So this is from the USA, and it seems to be. It's not in one location. They have been spotted in Michigan, Ohio, and Connecticut. So Michigan and Ohio aren't that far away from each other, but Connecticut certainly is.
Isn't it? The distance, yeah. Maybe some of them went hiking. They had a falling out.
Maybe.
I mean, what are they first? Let's find out.
So I'm going to start off with Wikipedia, and then there's loads about these on the internet. But I'm going to start off with Wikipedia.
Probably start.
At the top it says here, Mellon Heads redirects here for the Los Angeles Rams supporters. See Mellon Heads for the rail species.
Right, let's have a quick sidebar into that because I want to know what that means.
The Mellon Heads are a group of fans of the Los Angeles Rams that attend games with a carved-out watermelon placed on their heads. They are similar to the cheese heads of the Green Bay Packers with their usage of food memorabilia on their heads. Though Wisconsin is known for cheese products, while Los Angeles is not known for watermelons.
That is both disappointingly prosaic and completely baffling at the same time.
What, put a melon on your head? You're in for a treat.
I can barely find a hat that fits. I don't think I'd find a melon big enough to stick
Melons
on my
are pretty big now. Pretty big. We'll try it, and we'll put it...
We can do an experiment, yeah. No, because there is... I mean, this weird spots... That's odd and sounds a bit affected, to be honest with you. Mellon heads. Because, yeah, if it's something that's intrinsic to your local community...
Well, I think
someone thought it was funny, didn't they? And then
someone stuck half a melon on their head because they probably bought it.
Everyone else was like, brilliant, just copy that.
Well, they probably bought it in the car park where you could buy watermelon stuff. They're pissed up because they have tailgating, don't they? They all have a big party.
Had a few buds.
Had a few Bud Lights.
Stuck it on his head, a bit of fun, and everyone was like, brilliant.
Well, he probably put it on his head and then they won. And then they were like, oh, you got to wear it next week. And then they won again. And then so they all started wearing it. And then it just became a thing.
Well, because this is, and I think it might be Cleveland, I'm not sure. I probably got that wrong. Where does the rapper Wiz Khalifa come from?
So you know him better than I do.
Oh, okay. Anyway, he did a song called Black and Yellow, didn't it? It's about his hometown or whatever. I think it might be Cleveland. I might have that completely wrong, so apologies to him. But no, they have these, their sports thing that they do. They have a thing called the Terrible Towel, and they're known for just waving towels around. Was it Pittsburgh? Look up Pittsburgh Terrible Towel.
No.
I don't think I'm making this up. It sounds like I am. All right, let's have a look. Terrible Towel. It's just a weird thing to... There's a lot of interesting kind of American sports mascots.
It's almost as if the sport's quite boring, so they have...
term-based rugby. The Pittsburgh... Yeah, it's Pittsburgh, sorry, not Cleveland. Pittsburgh Steelers. NFL. Why is it a Terrible Towel? I think it was just something that they produced one year, but it just became really iconic. And now they wave towels around and shit like this.
Wow.
Yeah, they just wanted the gimmick, and they're like, yeah, we'll do a towel and we'll call it the Terrible Towel.
Don't forget to pack a towel.
I found Terry Bradshaw sitting on the stool near his locker reading the film reports. How do you feel about the Terrible Towel? I asked him. He looked up and said, huh? I check him off as a yes. I reported back to Ted Atkins that the Steelers overwhelmingly approved of the towel. Fair enough. Anyway, there you go. Yeah, they wave towels around at their sporting events in Pittsburgh. So there's. No, I quite like that. It's quite idiosyncratic. It's
feels a bit forced, but there we go.
It's slightly like I imagine like wearing a parrot on your shoulder or something like that. But, what are you talking about? I don't know.
Yeah, we
draw attention to it. You're the one talking about it.
Yeah. Anyway, if you'll move out of the way of my penny farthing.
Yeah.
I'm off to get my moustache waxed. So, Mellon Heads, the non-sporting variety.
Yes.
In the American folklore of Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut, Mellon Heads are beings generally described as small humanoids with bulbous heads who occasionally emerge from hiding places to attack people.
So I've immediately got a question there. We're calling them humanoids.
Yeah.
Because I did look up a picture of this. You mentioned it. I've never heard of these. But I did look up a picture and they just look like what's it called? Is it macrocephalitic or hydrocephalitic? When it's like a birth defect where you get water on the brain. It basically swells the skull. Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that, Neil. So, different variations of the legend attribute different origins to the entities. So we're going to go through the three different origin stories.
Humanoid sounds extraterrestrial to me. That's all I'm saying. But they could be robots, or they could be a military experiment gone wrong.
Probably.
Or just a natural thing. So that's
the legend in Michigan. The Mellon Heads of Michigan are said to reside around Felt Mansion. That sounds like a kid's play area, doesn't it? Although they have also been reportedly seen in the southern forested areas of Ottawa County. According to one story, they were originally children with hydrocephalus who lived at the Junction Insane Asylum near Felt Mansion. Oh, you've got water on your brain. You're not getting...
Yeah, so clearly you must be, yeah. Mind you, that's probably that period of time where anyone with any kind of
The story explains that after enduring physical and emotional abuse, they became feral and released into the forests around the asylum. Just release them. The Allegan County Historical Society asserts that the asylum never existed, although it was at one point a prison. However, the story has been part of local folklore for several decades. Laketown Township manager Al Meshkin told the Holland Sentinel that he had heard tales as a teenager, noting that his friends referred to the beings as wobbleheads. So that's like the things you put on the car dashboard, which have got the big heads.
Bobbleheads. Well, they do have oversized heads, don't they, I suppose? But I'm just thinking now as well, I don't know how familiar you are with the Friday the 13th movies, but he's got a bit of an enlarged head.
Has he? Or Sloth from the Goonies.
A little kid. Or Sloth from the Goonies, yeah.
Which is more my speed. Some versions...
I've seen the Goonies in years.
No, I mean...
Probably a good reason for that.
Some versions of the legend said that the children once lived in the mansion itself, but later retreated to a system of caverns or caves in a nearby hill, left over from an abandoned zoo. Some versions of this legend say that the children devised a plan to escape and kill the doctor who had abused them. It said that the children had no place to hide the body, so they cut it up into small pieces, which they hid around the mansion. Rumours exist that teenagers who had broken into the mansion saw the ghosts of the children and claimed to see the shadows of the doctor's murder through the light coming from an open door. The legend has spread out through the region, even becoming the subject of a 2011 film simply titled The Mellon Heads, which is based around the West Michigan legends. So it's
kind of a silly title for your. So I mean, there's quite a lot in there. So, but I mean, firstly, they're calling them humanoids, but then that just seems to have.
Well,
wait a natural explanation.
Wait a second. That's one of three.
That's one. Okay, that's one of three. Yeah, because I imagine there'll be extraterrestrials in there somewhere. So this is okay. So they're. They were just born with a birth defect, and then they decided to chuck them away in a.
They were abused by a doctor.
Yeah, by a mad doctor.
They were either released into the wild as feral, or they escaped into the caves in a zoo.
That load of caverns that used to be a zoo, apparently, because we don't have particularly great. I mean,
well, no. If you remember in Police Academy 3, There's a gang headquarters in an abandoned zoo, and there's lots of caves there. So, that could be true based on that documentary.
That's true. I mean, Bobcat Goldthwait.
Sweet Jack.
Yeah, I imagine that's what a melon head would sound like.
So, do you want to hear about the legend in Ohio?
I do, yeah. So, where
I do, yeah.
I mean, maybe it's three different species or something, maybe there are some feral kids and some extraterrestrials and whatever the other one is. Medical experiment gone wrong.
So,
military.
The Mellon Heads stories of Ohio are primarily associated with the Cleveland suburb of Kirtland. According to local law, the Mellon Heads were originally orphans under the watch of a mysterious figure known as Dr. Crow. Sometimes spelled,
was this around the 30s or 40s?
Sometimes spelled as Crow with an E, Crow, Krohe, or Crow, Kroh, or known as Dr. Mellonhead. Crow is said to have performed unusual experiments on the children who developed large hairless heads and malformed bodies. Some accounts claim that the children were already suffering from hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
And that Crow injected even more fluid into their brains. Right, let's get some more in there.
No, exactly. It's like, you got to
see what the tolerance is.
Just put more. Just how big can the head get? How big of a melon? Are we talking like a honeydew or a watermelon? I don't know what's the biggest of melons.
Watermelon, I'd say.
Yeah, probably. Honeydew's quite small, isn't it?
Yeah, but very
probably
sweet.
Like that normal head size.
No, smaller than that.
One.
You never had honeydew melon, the yellow ones.
No, honeydew melon. No, I've had like the whatever your regular melons are called.
Honeydew is probably the most regular one in the UK.
Oh, maybe I have had it then.
It's got the yellow skin.
Yeah, yellow skin.
Yeah, that's honeydew.
I've seen them. Yeah, I've never bought an 8 one. I've
Oh.
occasionally will buy a watermelon or something like that. I don't buy melons. The thing is, there's not much to them, is there?
Well,
they're quite heavy and it's
tasty.
They're nice. I know, don't get me wrong, I like them, but
you can.
It's a lot to lug back if you don't have a car, which I don't.
For this watermelon in your little wheelbarrow.
Put it in my little basket in my little bike and just think Pee Wee Herman, just trip it up and down to the shop. Yeah. But I couldn't fit 2 melons in there, Chris. I've got beer and stuff in there.
You can cut a hole in a melon and just put a bottle of vodka in there, and the melon will just take pretty much all the vodka you can give it. So maybe that's something to do.
I would probably liquidize the pulp and strain it and then mix that with the vodka.
No, because you want to have eaten vodka, don't you?
I don't know. I got drunk on vodka jelly when I was at university, and that put me off getting drunk.
I've never got drunk on vodka jelly, although I've had lots of it. So,
I ate most of it because no one else was that interested, and I was a student.
Just having a very boozy trifle. Yeah. Vodka jelly, rum, or sherry. Sherry in a trifle, isn't it? Whiskey cream.
I think they've made it with vodka, and it didn't set massively well. So it was just the best part of a bottle of vodka, basically, but in solid form.
Yeah,
very weird to get drunk off of. Yeah.
So eventually the legend continues. The children kill Crow, burning the orphanage and retreating to the surrounding forest to supposedly feed on babies. Legend holds that the Mellon Heads may be
where are they getting them from?
Shop. Well, they burnt the orphanage, so there's just babies lying around.
Oh, right, fair enough.
The Mellon Heads may be sighted along Wisner Road in Kirkland and Chardon Township.
Mayday, or is that just made up?
Huh?
Was it they may be sighted along such and such a road?
They may be.
Maybe, if you're lucky. It's like a whale. You go out in the ship or whatever. We can't guarantee you're going to see one.
It's like the Aurora Borealis.
If you want to see one, this is, if you want to see it, this is where you're going to have to come. We can't promise it's going to happen. It's like a force of nature.
I went to Tromsø in the Arctic Circle for a week to see the Northern Lights. Yeah. Didn't see them.
Didn't pan out, did it? Atmospheric conditions.
The week before I went, they were everywhere, and literally the day after I left, they were everywhere. So, don't know. These things happen. But I got to go to the Arctic Circle, so either that or I affect the ionosphere somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only data point we have, but we can't disregard it.
So, the Mellon Head legend has been popularised on the internet, particularly on the website Creepy Cleveland and Dead Ohio, where users offer their own version of the story. And a movie, The Legend of the Mellon Heads, released in 2010, is based on the Ohio legends and other legends in the Kirkland area.
Now, Chris, I'm guessing that movie, A, does not have a particularly large budget, and B, went straight, whatever the equivalent of, was it straight to streaming these days? It used to be straight to video. I'm quite old, but
straight to YouTube.
Or straight to DVD, yeah, straight to YouTube. Yeah.
Could be, but I mean, it's not very. Well, no, if
it's mentioned there, then I would assume it, because YouTube would just be any old shit. I mean, even we could fucking do that, but we could be asked to film something.
So I wonder which one did better, The Mellon Heads or Legend of the Mellon Heads.
So it's making me think about like Coneheads with what's his face. Yeah. So Mellon Heads. I'm going to look this up. I want to see the Mellon Heads 2000. Oh, so there's 2 movies, is there?
Yes, so one based on the Michigan story and one based on the Ohio one.
Oh, so Legends of them. So the Mellon Heads immediately. It's a great start because it's directed and written by the same person.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't star him as well. And not only does it not have a cover for the movie itself, but you've got...
There's a bloke holding up his hand with blood on it.
No, that's Legend of the Mellon Heads. I'm talking about the Mellon Heads. Oh, okay. And absolutely none of the actors have got portraits. It's clearly the only movie they've ever been in.
I would say the Legend of the Mellon Heads, it's also written and directed by the same person. By Brian C. Lawler.
Yeah, but that's actually got a cover, and then let's have a look, see if any act. Yes, but you see, it's got Terry Giancatero as Guy 2.
Nice.
Jeffrey Crane as Guy.
Oh, there's someone called Grace Flynn plays Sharon in this one. I wonder if we're related.
Join 4 young adults. They set out to spend the weekend in Mellon Head country. Yeah, all filmed in the woods somewhere, I would imagine. So it's just mostly you walking around in the woods with your mate. I mean, that can work out quite well. You know, it worked for Evil Dead. You know, Sam Raimi, that's how he started his career. But yeah, generally means a terrible, terrible movie.
Well, I cannot neither confirm nor deny that, having never seen it.
I'll enjoy it.
Hey, do you know what, Neil? At least these people had to get up and go and make a film.
Well, no. Do you know what? Actually,
no easy task, especially as they've probably got proper jobs.
And my hat's off to them. Anyone who creates anything and puts it out there, good luck to you. No, the only one of those that really annoyed me actually was they did was sort of still assume, but we got one of those DVD things, and we were sort of watching bad movies at the time. It was called something like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. Right. Before they had those sort of mix-ups. But I asked my mate about it, and I said, so does he just fight with vampires all the way through dressed as Jesus? And he's like, no, he gets his hair cut in the first 5 minutes. Fuck that. If you're going to make a film called Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, I want to fucking see him with long hair and a goatee beard all the way through, kicking ass for the Lord.
Well, I hope that you sent them a strongly worded letter. So,
outrageous. Really fucked me. It still fucks me off to this day.
Clearly. I
haven't even seen it. I wasn't going to watch it after that.
You've gone puce on the camera.
Oh, good Lord.
So, the Connecticut. So, there isn't too much different in the first two legends, really. So, the legend in Connecticut, let's see if this is any different. Several variations of the Mellon Head legend can be found throughout southwest Connecticut, especially in central and eastern Fairfield County and western New Haven County, Connecticut. In the eastern Fairfield County, many tales can be found in communities such as Trumbull, Shelton, Stratford, Monroe, Eastern, and Western. In in western and central New Haven County, tales can be found in towns like Seymour, Oxford, Milford, and Southbury. There are several primary...
You're just reading place names to me now, Chris.
I am. There are several primary Connecticut variations. According to one variation of the myth, Fairfield County was the location of an asylum for the criminally insane that burnt down in the fall of 1960, resulting in the death of all staff and most of the patients, with 10 or 20 inmates unaccounted for, supposedly having survived an escape into the woods. The legend.
I mean, I'll say this. What does this say about the regulation of their sane asylums in America? I mean,
lax.
Yeah, it seems like it. Seems like any old Charlie can just set one up and
burn it down.
Do what they like. Yeah, burn it down.
You sure it's
create
funny?
Some feral kids and then shove them all in a zoo for a laugh. Do some experiments.
So the legend,
you don't want too much red tape in your asylum. Obviously, you want to let the free market decide and all that. But
I take a libertarian view on it, that you don't want any government interference in setting up asylums.
Look, if hydrocephalic kids wanted a properly run asylum,
if I want to inject water
pull themselves
into
up by their
brains.
bootstraps so they can afford a decent one.
So,
if they don't want to be abused and experimented upon, then,
Well, exactly. So, the legend states that the Mellon Heads' appearance is a result of them having resorted to cannibalism in order to survive the harsh winters of the region, and to inbreeding, which in turn caused them to develop the hypocephalus. Some retellings of this version substitute the asylum or prison with places of business or campgrounds, and the inmates' patients with employees, staff, or campgoers. Individual variations will modify what towns these individuals were originally from and where they end up. According to the second variation, the Mellon Heads are the descendants of a colonial-era family from Shelton, Trumbull, who were banished after accusations of witchcrafts, which were made against them, causing them to retreat into the woods. As with the first version of the legend, this variation attributes the appearance to the Mellon Heads to inbreeding. Mellon Heads allegedly prey upon humans who wander into their territory. Like the first versions, individual retelling to modify what town a family were originally from and where they end up. So,
interestingly, again, we're using terms like humans. They prey on humans, indicating they're not humans themselves.
Indicating that.
I don't know. It sounds a bit judgmental to me. But
what? So you would have preferred it said other humans?
Well, yeah. Or just prey on, whatever.
What? Ducks?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
Could you be in a car, you snowflake?
Got quite a large head, haven't I? So I'm a bit worried.
Is that what this is about?
I go out to America. He's going to sort of. Yeah.
You're not going to be treated as a human. You're going to be. They're going to get
scooped out melon. I'm going to go to a football game in the States. They're going to get scooped out melon, and they're going to see it's not fit. They're going to get angered. And they're going to shove me in a zoo. Pelt me with peanuts.
From what I know of America, I would say in America you would have a normal-sized head.
Fair enough. It's only 30% chance of that happening there.
So here we go. So Dracula Drive, subheading. A number of Connecticut-based legends of the Mellon Heads have one characteristic in common. The inclusion of a secluded, rustic or single-lane, usually dirt road running through the Mellon Heads wooded territory. Many towns in Fairfield County and New Haven County have rural forested sections, and it's not uncommon for these forests to have rural roads running through them. The roads at the time associated with local variations with the Mellon Head legends are said to be part of the Mellon Heads territory. In a number of towns, such as Shelton, Trumbull and Monroe, several legends place the Mellon Heads territory around a mysterious and mythical street commonly referred to as Dracula Drive.
Why Dracula Drive?
I don't know. None of these towns have a Mellon Head legend. None of the towns that have a Mellon Head legend have roads designated as Dracula Drive. Depending on what version of the legend is told, one of several existing streets is mistakenly referred to or coincidentally coincide with Dracula Drive mentioned in the Mellon Head stories. For instance, some legends place the Mellon Heads territory in and around Sawmill City Road in Shelton as Dracula Drive. Some other roads mistakenly referred to as Dracula Drive include Edmund Road in Oxford, Velvet Street in Trumbull and Monroe, Zion Hill Road, Milford, the roads around Lake Mohegan in Fairfield, Marginal Road, New Haven, Jeremy Swamp Road in Southbury. Do you want to go down Jeremy Swamp? And Parton Road in and around the Roosevelt Forest in Stratford.
Not Jeremy Swamp. He was a good man. Did a lot of work for charity. I mean, so what was the point in that entire segment? So
they're giving you actual roads which are meant to be Dracula Drive.
Oh, okay. So what people locally call it Dracula Drive, but actually it's called Jeremy Swamp Road or something.
Yeah. So
I still don't understand why they're calling it Dracula Drive. I get that there's some Mellon Heads live there and frighten everyone, but why would you call it Mellon Head Drive or Freak Drive or something? I don't know.
Freak Drive was one of my favourite Parliament albums.
Yeah. Up in the mothership.
Yeah. Ow, Freak Drive.
It's going to be that, or what's his name? Rick Baker, was it? What's that bassist? I've forgotten his name.
Bootsy Collins?
No, not Bootsy Collins.
Well, he did Super Freak. Oh, no, Super Freak was Rick James.
No, it wasn't. Rick James, sorry, that's what I was thinking of.
So, the Connecticut legend, inspirations and origins. Characters of the legends evolve and parts of various versions of the legend affect other versions of the legend. Interesting writing. For example, some legends claim the Mellon Heads would bite or consume whoever entered their territory. Also, the Mellon Heads territory commonly involves a secluded rustic or dirt road running through it. This is the one instance where the elements of the legend interact over time and where some actual streets are mistakenly referred to as Dracula Drive. In Connecticut, some inspirations for the number of versions of Mellon Heads legend may be attributed to local surroundings and landmarks. Central Fairfield County is home to a now-defunct Fairfield Hills State Mental Hospital, as well as the Garner Correctional Institution, both located in Newtown, as well as the Federal Collection. Blah, 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 blah. That's boring. Stories about deformed country people who keep themselves to themselves are a common legend.
I mean, the thing is, it's probably not it's probably not unknown. Because I've heard this where you get very isolated rural communities and people are very, very independent and all the rest of it, and they'll just sort of like, get off my land, as it would be over here, or gun you down sort of thing. So, yeah, I could sort of see that happening in rural communities. It might be sort of like a creepy family that people steer clear of because they're a bit odd.
And there probably, and there would be instances of incest, very rarely, but you imagine it would stick in the
it happens
public,
from time to time.
Public thing.
Especially if they're very isolated, yeah.
While the legend of the Mellon Heads is more widely told throughout southwest Connecticut, one of several other similar legends of deformed or mutated humans can be found in various locations of Fairfield and New Haven County. These legends have been told in overlapping communities where some individuals tell versions of one legend alongside other individuals who will tell versions of another legend. Over time, this overlapping oral tradition may have allowed the cross-contribution of elements to each other. Some similar legends include the Danbury frog people.
I'm sorry, you're going up a notch from hydrocephalitic to a frog person.
Certainly are.
Were they amphibious?
The faceless people of Monroe. And Mongoloid village, which...
Oh, that's that's bad on two fronts.
Which I believe that...
we won't both racially and from other perspectives, unacceptable these days.
So here are... so I'm going to give you the most unique backstories fueling the Mellon Heads urban legends from Ranker. So we'll see what these are like, yeah?
Yes.
Jen Lennon wrote this, and it was updated in February 6th, 2020. So, list rules. Vote for the freakiest Mellon Head backstories. So I should probably do 10 to 1, really, shouldn't I?
All I seem to have grasped so far is either inbred farmhands or inbred farmers or... escape from the insane asylum.
Yeah, and I think that's fine.
Both.
I think that's fine.
You've got 10 backgrounds here this week.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
There's going to be very much variations on the same thing.
Yeah. So, if you're not from Michigan, so this is the preamble. If you're not from Michigan, Ohio, or Connecticut, you may not have heard of the Mellon Heads urban legend. Each state has several versions of the tales, but they all centre around one thing: mysterious humanoids with large, bulbous heads. Sometimes they're a result of inbreeding, sometimes they're a result of experiments gone wrong. They live in isolation in the woods and are usually believed to have nefarious intentions. This list explores the origin of some of these legends, from Mellon Heads in Felt Mansion to Mellon Heads in Ohio and Connecticut. They are first-hand encounters. Tales that have been passed down from generation upon generation, and somewhat rational explanations. Is any of it true? Read through the accounts below and decide for yourself. So, 10. I'm just going to go down to 10.
Yeah.
So, the seminary.
So priests.
One person claims there is a non-spooky explanation behind the Mellon Head stories in Michigan.
Just prayed really hard for a large-headed kid.
For a large head for themselves.
Yeah.
So they could fit
Lord,
more...
please let not fit on me. Yeah.
Felt Mansion used to be...
It'd be embarrassing when it became Pope, wouldn't it?
Well, they've got a massive hat.
Yeah. I'd cover that up. Yeah.
They'll be able to lay it out. Felt Mansion used to be a seminary, and the Grand Haven Tribune spoke with one of its former students. He said, "Rumour starts because of the unknown. The Mellon Heads were actually seminarians,
yeah. Trainee priests, I imagine.
At St. Augustine Seminary in the Felt Mansion. Local kids used to call us that because it was a private school and we were brainy."
Yeah. We got called Boff at school sometimes until I gave up.
I used to get called Professor by the dad of one of my friends, which, but kind of in a snide way because I was clever.
In a disapproving way. We don't like thinking in this country, do we?
Wow.
Getting above yourself. Do you think you are?
Witchcraft, number 9. Another story from the Trumbull, Connecticut area conveys that in colonial times a family was accused of witchcraft, we know this one, and banished from the settlement and now forced to live in the surrounding woods, far removed from society. Since they could not interact with the people in the town, they bred with each other to continue the bloodline. The resulting children would have formed and continued inbreeding, slowly turned their descendants into Mellon Heads.
Okay, so inbreeding. So we got the most likely one probably, which is just they had a name called Mellon Heads just because they didn't like their local priest because they're a bit, chatting on in Latin. Fuck's that all about? And inbred, well, we've already done that.
So Connecticut Insane Asylum. There are rumours that an insane asylum near Trumbull, Connecticut, burnt around in the 60s, so we've kind of done this one. Lived in the woods. The Benevolence Dr. Crow. In Ohio, there are two. So this is number 7. In Ohio, there
Make
are
your head big for your own good.
you'll thank me
later. Make that carny money.
This is costing me a fortune. Don't worry, I don't want any money back. 2 prominent origin stories. One is about the benevolent Dr. Crow, who lived off Wisner Road in Kirtland, which just so happens to be right near a rumoured crybaby bridge.
Right near a crybaby bridge.
Yeah. Dr. Crow took in children with hydrocephalus.
It was a rumoured bridge.
Well, there's a picture of it here.
Okay, seems fairly factual to me, but fair enough.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the rumours of it's called the Crybaby Bridge.
Oh, right, okay.
God, you're being very snarky. What's wrong with you?
Just trying to find something to do with this material, Chris, but there we go.
All right, New Coke. Dr. Crow took in children with hydrocephalus and gave them a warm, loving home. Ah.
There you go.
The neighbours were repulsed and called them Mellon Heads. But
Not to taking any non-hydrocephalic kids?
No, fuck them. Yeah.
They're freaky little, got tiny skulls. Don't care for them.
But the neighbours were repulsed and called them Mellon Heads, but Dr. Crow did his best to shield them from the cruel comments of others. When he passed of natural causes, his adopted children were scared and alone, with no one to take care of them. Enraged and fearful of the outsiders, they burnt down the house with Dr. Crow inside and escaped into the woods. They continued to live there, where interbreeding brought out the worst of their genes. Eventually, they became less human, more humanoid. Local law depicts them as territorial and angry, responsible for attacks, kidnapping, and theft of pets, livestock for food.
Well, got to live off something. I mean, just pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. No, also, what he's done there is he's shuttled them a bit too much, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Understandably, he wants to protect them from a harsh modern world, but
it's kind of like the mayor of Southend with his rat boy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, just stick it in a little place where it can go and do a bit of feeding.
Right, so Dracula Drive, number 6. There are many streets of Connecticut that are known colloquially as Dracula Drive. The Mellon Heads are said to lurk around these roads. In Fairfield, Dracula Drive is a nickname for Velvet Street, a place where Megan O'Connell was when something terrifying happened, Neil. Ooh. According to Weird New England, your guide to New England's local legends and best-kept secrets, Megan and a group of her friends decided they wanted to do something fun after a high school football game in the early 80s. Megan's friend Debbie had a Ford Granada.
Okay, take that down Dracula Drive. Be a bit of a laugh.
And they all piled in search of adventure. They ended up on Velvet Street, where they got out of the car to look for some Mellon Heads. As they searched the woods, they heard Debbie's car turn on behind them. Stunned, they ran back to where it was parked. The headlights were flashed, and suddenly the car came barreling towards them. They took cover as the car drove by and saw the occupants, creatures that could almost pass for human if it were not for their bulbous heads. So now that's a drive.
Oh, fair enough.
Good, isn't it?
Well, you went looking for Mellon Heads, you found Mellon Heads.
Exactly. We complained about just because they happened to steal your car.
Yeah.
That's like the world's like, oh no, I've crashed my car driving and we're going to get the insurance money. Right. Yeah. Push it into a creek and say that Mellon Heads nicked it.
Yeah, Mellon Heads got it, didn't they? Nothing to do with me. No, no. I suppose it's a bit like when you go to one of those. What are they called? Is it like one of those wild parks where you just sort of you don't get out of the car when the monkeys are hopping about or whatever?
Yeah.
You drive through one of those drive-through zoos.
Drive-through zoo. I'll have a monkey.
What they're called?
That'll be £6.
No, they put you in like an safari park. I can't remember.
Drive-through zoo.
I've never been through one. Yeah.
I'll have an elephant, 2 giraffes. What do you want, kid?
Yeah, give the rhino a poke. I want to have a look at that, and then I'm back down the M25. Damn, I don't know, round the M25. I don't drive, as one can clearly tell.
Unlike a Mellon Heads.
Unlike a Mellon Head, yeah. They've picked up that skill. Well, I reckon I can drive a car. I just don't have a license.
Can you?
I was up to test standard at one point.
Have you got clutch control?
Okay, not brilliant.
I had a dream
I can work a clutch.
I had a dream last night that I was redoing driving lessons, but just in an automatic, because that's what I'm thinking of doing in real life. But I had a dream that I was doing it, so maybe I should get on with it.
Clutch was the hardest part for me, because I've always heard that supposedly reverse maneuver is supposed to be difficult, but then actually not.
No, reversing's fine.
Yeah, it's clutch control's the hardest part, I found.
Well, I just thought, to be honest, at least half cars you can buy now, like second hand, are automatics, and I'm not bothered about. I don't need to drive a manual or a stick shift.
No, you can always rent out an automatic or buy an automatic if you need.
I just thought do that. Not that I'll get a car now, but I mean it probably is something that's useful
if you did want to.
Well,
one or something.
The thing is, as I look to my future as increasingly isolated.
Well, you do live on Dracula Drive.
I do live
Mellon Head for a flatmate, so I don't know what you're expecting, to be honest with you. I tried to get on with him, but he's quite terrifying. He does scream and wails, though.
The thing is, I think of kind of going on holiday and that kind of stuff, and you can get around on public transport to an extent, but there are places you'd like to go and see maybe that there isn't public transport links, so it'd be good to be able to hire a car.
You've got the choice, at least, yeah.
So I'm thinking that I'll probably...
That's what this Mellon Head was thinking.
Yeah, I'm going...
He's bored of living on Dracula Drive. He's like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go off to Ohio or something.
Yeah, I'm going to go and have a look.
Just wait for some snotty teens to come and gawp at me, and then I'll be right in.
Go and have a look at like one of those American roadside things, like World's Biggest Shoe or whatever.
Do you reckon he wears like a little mask like the Elephant Man when he goes out by petrol? He's got like one of them straw hats.
I think he probably just puts a
sack on his head,
a melon on his head, and claims to be a supporter of the Rams.
Like, yeah, go the Rams.
Yeah, go Rams.
I'm off to LA.
So, number 5 is the evil Dr. Crow. So, not so benevolent now, Neil. One of the 2 origin stories in Ohio depicts an evil man known as Dr. Crow. It said that he used to take in orphans and perform horrifying medical experiments on them in his secluded house.
Sadly, this is more believable.
He injected fluid into their brains, causing the characteristic swollen skull. To what end?
He just wanted to prove what was causing the swelling in the skull. Well, and now to the Royal Society. What causes an excess fluid? Yeah, we know that. Like literally, that's what hydrocephalic means. You
kind of get the feeling that he might have been
a water skull.
He might have been brought over during Operation Paperclip, and he may have been working in Germany during the war.
He's just one of these people that wants to prove things that were proved quite a while ago. It's just like, well, how do we know it's not flat Earth, Chris? How do we know where's the science? Pretty fucking rigorously documented. If you could be fucked to do any research and understand it, you prick.
So his experiments continued for years, and the children became more desperate with each passing day, as you would do, until they finally revolted and slew him. They set fire to the house, retreated into the woods, where they still live to this day.
Maybe he just had put all of his money into shares of a hat business, and he wasn't going well, and he just thought, this is the only way out. They'll say I'm insane, but when you're in a corner like I am, it's the only sane choice you've got left.
I might lose upwards of 5% of my fortune.
Yeah,
unless I do.
You can't have that.
Can't have that.
It's between that and having to create, an army of huge melon-headed children. Well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Speculate to accumulate, Chris.
So, number 4, unlucky explorers. Weird, Michigan your travel guide to Michigan's local legends and best kept secrets, includes a first-person encounter with a Mellon Head. Kelly...
He's been interviewed. He's got some footage on YouTube. That'd be good.
There is footage on YouTube.
Hell, it's just, I've got, really poor self-image as it is without you fuckers turning me into a monster. So I just got,
It's just like a bald man with a slightly big head.
It's just slightly bigger than a normal head.
So Kelly...
I wasn't even that bothered about it until everyone started calling me Mellon Head. For fuck's sake.
Chase me into the woods.
At first I was like, well, no, I don't support the LA Rams. I got very confused. Kelly
Top Bedrosian claims that she was exploring the grounds of the then abandoned Felt Mansion with her friends one night.
That's her story.
When one night she saw a man in the distance. He had an unusually large head, but she wasn't scared. Then he started walking towards them. She writes...
And now she's scared.
She writes, not knowing who this man could be, my friend yelled, hello, to try and be friendly. But all we got was a loud grunt, and the man continued to walk towards us, but now at a faster pace, like T-1000. He's chasing the car.
Speeding up.
At this point, the same idea hit all of us, and we started...
Still racks him right onto his massive head.
We started sprinting towards our car. We scrambled in and peeled out of the parking lot at full speed, not slowing down till we were several miles from the mansion. End story.
Well, it might have been his squat or something, mightn't it?
Yeah, might have been a squatter.
Kids poking around.
Might have been the security guard.
He had to... Yeah, it could have been a security guard, yeah.
I mean... The thing is, right?
Not a great story, is it?
Not a great story. And also...
Oh, you never guess what happened to me this weekend. Went out to look at the Haunted Mansion, yeah?
And
you never guess. Geezer with a massive fucking head chasing after us. I was terrified. Well, not until he started chasing towards us. I was fine at first.
I mean, I'm not a tough man, but if there was one big-headed bloke and me and all my friends, I mean, how much of a physical coward do you have to be to turn and to sprint off to your car?
You say that, Chris, but if he headbutts you, you're in trouble.
Well, with my melon heads, my thick melon heads, I doubt it.
Well, you wouldn't be scared because we're both melon heads ourselves.
He'd welcome us. He'd welcome us in and offer us a slice of
brother,
a slice of baby.
Yeah, we'd let me go in there, a slice of baby and a mint julep. Have a lovely time.
So, number 3, nuclear experiments.
Oh, that's good.
A story...
Did they do many nuclear experiments in Michigan or Ohio? I'm sure not that they tell you. But
well, we don't know, do we? A story...
Explain a few things.
A story in Weird USA, your travel guide to America's local legends and best kept secret. So these are all from a travel guide to... So the Weird Michigan, Weird Ohio, Weird US...
Why keep introducing it with a... Yeah.
So these are all basically from the same website.
Well, I'll be honest with you, we've not got the feature set of New York, so we're going to have to be creative about selling. We've got 3 houses, a few Mellon Heads and a Dracula Drive, so get a bit creative about how we get the tourists in here.
So it tells...
I haven't even got a fucking shopping mall anymore.
No, it's shut down.
Just drive through.
It tells of yet another version of the Mellon Head legend in Ohio. Paul I recounts recounts of what he heard as a teenager in the swinging 60s. I've added swinging in there to spice it up a bit, punch it up.
It probably wasn't Carnaby Street, but fair enough.
No. According to Paul, some teenager saw a melon head along the side of a road, walk into the woods, and they followed him to a farmhouse deep in the woods.
Wow.
2 adults and several children with malformed heads sat on a porch. One said, don't you be looking at my melon heads. Melon heads ain't for you, boy. They're mine. One said that he was a nuclear scientist of World War II and that the radiation exposure he suffered caused a deformity in his children. Sadly, all too plausible. When Paul and some of his friends went looking for the farmhouse, they were intercepted by several police officers who tried hard to convince them the story was fiction. That made them even more convinced of the existence of the Mellon Heads.
A likely story.
Yeah, whatever.
Cover up.
Number 2 is simply called Run! !
Well, they should be getting better theoretically, shouldn't they?
Do you guess? Can you guess where this comes from? In Weird US, a travel guide to America's local legends and best kept secrets, a man named Tony recounts his encounter with a Mellon Head in Charles, Ohio. Wow. Tony was driving with his family down Chillicothe Road when they came to a section of the road with fields on both sides. There was an irrigation ditch separating the road from the fields. That's where Tony spotted him.
So just a field full of melon heads, just picking corn.
He explained, I looked out of my window and saw him, a melon head. He, or it, was running next to the ditch. We were going about 45, 50 miles per hour, and the melon head was actually keeping up with us.
Okay, so they can run at 45 miles
very
an hour.
fast, which is weird because they're not very aerodynamic.
No, well, they're very strong,
really powerful legs. Tony goes on to describe the Mellon Head's clothes. He had ribbed brown pants, white shirt with red stains, and it appeared to be about 5'7", light brown skin, large head, 2 holes where the ears should have been. The creature then jumped into the woods as their car went around a curve in the road.
There you go. Just out for a jog.
Just out for a night.
Out for a sprint.
Out for a 60-mile-an-hour jog.
Can you do?
But we all do. Yeah. And number 1 is Junction Insane Asylum.
Is this from perfectlynormalamerica.com?
No, it's not.
Oh, funny, isn't it?
So there's an abandoned building. I think we've done this, but I'll skim it. There's an abandoned building near Felt Mansion in Holland, Michigan. The government insisted it was part of the Dunes Correctional Facility, a low-security prison, which was shut down. Some locals, however, believe that it was once a site of the Junction Insane Asylum. The Allegan County Historical Society claims the asylum never existed, and it's just part of local law. But maybe it did exist, and maybe it had something to do with melon heads. One version of the legend goes like this. Some children with hydrocephalus. I keep getting that wrong.
I can't do it now.
Hydrocephalus. A condition caused brain cell with excess cerebrospinal fluid.
Cerebrospinal fluid?
That's the kiddie. And the head and brain large. Lived in the Junction Insane Asylum. They're mentally and physically affected as a result of their condition, and because of the experiments performed on them by staff, some of them became feral and then went to live in the woods. So that's that. Is there anything else? Ooh.
I mean, that merited a top 3 at most, to be honest with you.
Yes.
I saw one running once.
So according to the New England Historical Society, stories about deformed country people who kept themselves to themselves go back at least a century into Europe. For example, a large family of melon heads supposedly once lived in Bavaria, Germany in the 19th century. And an inbred family of melon heads, known as Weeble heads, were said to live outside Risbury, England around 1900s.
Well, they still do.
They still do. Good.
They're nice people.
Powerful family.
Couldn't do it. I'll tell you what, they're good community leaders. Couldn't do enough for you.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, salt of the earth. Beautiful people. I mean, look, to be honest with you, I can see this. It just seems to be like a bit of
here's an interesting
prejudice
one
about people who live in rural areas.
Well, according to another theory, the term melon heads may stem from Melangian, which describes the mixed race people in Appalachia. They have ancestry of European outcasts, freed slaves and Native Americans, and kept themselves to themselves. I've heard of these. They're quite fascinating subgroup of people.
I don't believe the etymology there, though, to be honest with you.
No.
I just don't call them Mellon Heads because it's a story about people with large heads. And I don't think there's that many people knocking around with hydrocephalic disorders or sort of whatever. I don't know. I don't know how common a condition it is. I think it's fairly rare.
I think it's fairly rare. So, Neil, I'm gonna say that that's all the information that we've got. So, should we go to our scoring system?
Yeah, let's go to scores.
Would you like to discuss further?
No, I think we've. I'm trying to think what you call it. We've juiced this melon for about as much as we can.
We've put enough vodka in this melon, ready for
it's ready for
the party, the scoring.
Yeah.
So, spookiness, Neil, you go first.
It's fairly standard kind of. I mean, it's lacking those kind of embellishments. It's like we've had people, they've either been running on the road or they've run at them or whatever. I mean, they're cannibals, I guess, but the whole kind of like cannibal sort of rural
incest
people is
cannibals.
like penny. Yeah, well, of course it's going to be incestuous. Penny.
Who wouldn't?
Knocking around yeah. Well, get a grip on that head. Who wouldn't want to?
What?
It wouldn't get. Oh, who could resist? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't like shiver my timbers that much. It's not that terrifying to me, to be honest with you. Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, I can imagine like if you were out in the middle of nowhere, and you were at sort of unwelcome or whatever, and you maybe because you're sort of like you've driven out there to sort of like have a peek at people, or whatever, or you just get trapped or something. I mean, that's kind of the premise of a lot of those kind of horror movies, isn't it? But yeah, inherently, it's just people with a deformity at the end of the day, which I don't think is something you sort of take down as particularly spooky. Other than and then they've just added a load of backstories about being cannibalistic or feral or whatever else. So I'm going to give this a 3.
So what we're getting here is you're giving this is less spooky to you than New Coke.
Well, does rampant capitalism scare me more than a kid with a large head? Yeah. Something terrifying about that.
Right, so I think it is a bit more spooky. It's a good, it's got horrible doctors. It's got people being abused who are born with medical conditions. It's got them turning on people, killing them, setting fire to everything, running off into the woods, then being very angry at society, sort of inbreeding, becoming sort of feral, attacking people, stealing pets and livestock, cannibal stuff. They look scary because humans are sort of naturally scared by people who are humans but look different. So I think it's a fairly scary one. It's not the most scary, but I think, if you're out in the woods and stuff and you thought, and saw something like this, I think it would shit you up pretty good. So there's a lot of elements to it. Yeah, so I mean, I'm going the opposite. I'm giving it a 7 now.
Fair enough. Evens out.
Believability. So hydrocephalus
hydrocephalus
does exist. And people in the past have done to sort of unwanted children and stuff. They've not been treated very well, so there's a believability and stuff there. I mean, none of it's saying that it's supernatural. So that's, I don't know, like they're probably not about, but I mean, there's nothing inherently unbelievable here, except for, I mean, it's difficult for us to think because we live in quite a small country which doesn't have many woods. So, but I guess there's plenty of quite wild areas for a group of people to hide if they were so inclined in America. So
they could do 50 miles an hour on a short sprint.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, if he'd gone to the Olympics, Usain Bolt would have been a bit less cocky, wouldn't he?
Oh, exactly.
Imagine that. It's a Mellon Head coming through. Just leaves it to the last 50 metres and then just absolutely rinses him.
So, I mean, there's nothing... Yeah, I don't know. I think it's for an urban legend, I think it's fairly believable. So I'm going 7 again, Neil.
Yeah, no, I kind of tend to agree, to be honest with you. There's nothing majorly... there's loads of lurid stuff in here, like insane doctors experimenting and the cannibalism and so on and so forth. But, you could see, sadly, people are, being hidden away in an asylum or something. I suppose where it gets a bit sort of gothic and melodramatic is where they all end up sort of like, inbreeding and kind of like, the asylum breaks down or they all sort of go feral and stuff like that. So yeah, actually, I'm not too. That doesn't strike me as believable. Yeah, kind of like some of the origin stories. I don't know. There's about 20 different origin stories here, but I'm going to go 50-50, give it a 5.
Okie dokie. So Reach, Neil.
I'd never heard of them. I was getting it mixed up with Cone Heads or a band called the Lemon Heads. So yeah, I don't think this has probably got massive reach. Obviously it's out on the internet as all these things are now.
3 states.
But 3 states out of 50 is not a lot, is it?
No, but that's where they originate. That's where
they originate from. Yeah, but I don't know how many states they'd be known in. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that this has got massive reach, to be honest with you.
2 films.
2 very, very bad films that are just, yeah.
You've not seen them, you can't say that.
They may be wonderful films, that's true. Or 2 very, very cheaply produced. I think I can speak for the production on those films. I'm sure they were working to the best of their ability and, good luck to them. But, it's not like they've invested in a major Hollywood motion picture or something. So, I'm going to go... I don't really know, but my sense on this is I'm going to go for a 4.
Okay.
Be generous.
So, I think it's interesting that it's got an origin story it's got 3 different states. It's not like, like the Luke Guru or something, which is probably better known, but I
like it localized though.
Yeah, but I mean, there must be something about this that it's got local, that I don't know, that people have grabbed onto it in 3 different places. I think for the people who know about this sort of thing, it's probably well known, and it's got a couple, it's well enough known to films. I don't think it's huge, but I mean, I'm having a look at the references, and it's been in a lot of books and stuff, and of kind of urban legends and that kind of thing. So, although I don't think it has, stuff to itself, but it's a known thing that people talk about. So yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but yeah, I think I'll give it a 5 out of 5 for Reach. And narrative premise. Well, it's kind of, it's an old kind. It's a deviation on quite an old story of kind of outsiders and stuff at its heart, or people who are different being abused and then becoming the hunters, the hunted becoming the hunters, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's got kind of different elements to it. It's not. I don't know. It feels to me like a story with some basis in fact somewhere. Like people. Maybe there was someone who took in kids who had this affliction at some point, and then sort of stories grew up around it as they would do in the past, whenever that was. But yeah, I mean, it's all right. It's nothing too original. The Mellon Head thing's quite original. It being around a specific affliction's quite original. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 now. How about you?
Well, again, narrative premise, there's a little bit here, and there's something that annoys me, which I'm going to get into. So there's, as you say, there's this sort of like, the fact that there's these, the notion of, these kids with a deformity, and then they sort of like end up sort of like being kind of triggered. But I think what I don't like is it just ends up they end up then becoming the sort of the bad guys, if you like. Because the whole idea of like some inbred weirdos in the middle of the country is, you have those kind of things, sort of jokes and stuff like about that, and sort of like in throughout Europe, I'm sure, and throughout the US, and just like a distrust of people that live out in the deep country, and the other, because you don't understand them. And then what I don't like is a bit like, I don't know if you've ever seen, there was a Tom Hanks movie from the 80s called The Burbs. Yeah. And they had like some Europeans moved into the all-American street, or so, I don't know, they were Polish or something. So that's weird, isn't it? Yeah. But then I thought that the twist was going to be that everyone realised at the end that actually they were murderers. They were just different. But no, the twist really was actually they were all murderous psychopaths, which I just thought was really pointless and stupid. So it's that kind of, the fact that they've gone in that direction really constrains it as a narrative for me, because it's like, they are freaks, and you should be afraid of anyone.
It wouldn't be much of a sort of scary story if it was like, and then they opened up a string of shops. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Maybe that'd be the best kind of method. Like, do you know what? And then he became president.
And then they became Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, well, it might be. Have you ever seen Ben? Do you think it's those two people that used to be on the side of the tub?
Well, I can see. I've had a look at the metadata, and that is Photoshop. The heads actually are a lot bigger than they show on the side of the tub. So make of that what you will, people.
Yeah, you might be right, but I think it's it limits it a little bit. The thing is, you don't have to twist one way or another, is it? You can just be, I don't know. Maybe this is just me reading into it too much. But I'll tell you what, I'll split the diff and give it a 5.
Give it a 5. So that gives us an overall urban score legend of 42, right in the bell curve.
There you go.
Like so many of them.
Straight down the middle.
Straight down the middle. Well, that's it.
A very average podcast. That's what we
very want. Well.
So bring you
below
the
average
most
podcasts.
Yeah.
We bring you the most forgettable stories from across the internet.
Yeah.
To make sure you sleep easy tonight.
We don't want to scare you.
Don't want to scare you.
We're thinking of you.
Exactly. We've got our intentions are good, and we've got. You might.
Oh, we could tell you some real tales. Turn your hair white.
Yeah, but we've got
shrink your balls into your tank.
all your breasts.
We don't want to do that. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so, we're looking out for you, really. You can't be trusted, so it's down to us to make sure you have a good night's sleep with yet another boring tale of
a boring tale, bland tale, milk pap
of the expected.
Yeah.
So, with that...
another 5 out of 10. Little Road, Kenny G.
The elevator music podcast from me, Chris, and him, Neil. And with that, I wish you a frank and productive week. And goodbye.
All the best.
Bye.